Alright, today I wanted to talk about one of my least favorite and one of the most useless characters in Invincible, Dupli-Kate. I've got two main things about her that I want to talk about, so yeah, let's do this. The first sign that Kate was a piece of shit was when she took wood from Rex in the shower.
Anything happening? Is Rex around? Are you kidding me, Kate?
Now, Kate does say that Rex lied to her and told her that Eve was dating Invincible, but if my homeboy breaks up with his girlfriend, you better believe I'm not going to be cracking that. That's just how it is. It's bro code. I assume girls have a similar type of thing going on, but especially if they just broke up. Even if Rex wasn't lying and him and Eve broke up, they would have been broken up for a day at most. So getting with your friend's ex the day after they break up is wild. Also, Rex must have been off it right here because, don't get me wrong, Dupli-Kate's kind of bad, but you know my philosophy on redheads. If the roof is rusted, the basement's flooded. Alright, next up is when she then cheated on Rex with the Immortal. They technically weren't dating, but still, she's getting passed around the team more than Kendall Jenner was in the NBA. It's crazy. And getting with Kate ruined the Immortal. He went from one of the top dogs to a lousy JV beta almost right after getting with Dupli-Kate. Coincidence? I think not. Alright, the next thing and the main thing that I feel like made her such an unlikable character is when Rex, Dupli-Kate, and Shrinking Ray got worked by the Lizard League. Rex and Shrinking Ray nearly got permanently packed up, but Dupli-Kate, technically speaking, was just chilling at home the whole time. Later on after the incident, Immortal came into his cabin to find her just alive and chilling. She told him that she always has her original copy in a safe place, so technically, actually, she's never been in danger in any fight she's ever had. Anyways, eventually Mark has his dispute with Cecil and the team dukes it out with a bunch of Reanimen, which leaves behind a big mess. Later on, the team starts to mop that mess up, and Ray has a little PTSD or something from nearly getting smoked on by the Lizard League. But Black Samson and Immortal run their mouths and a dispute breaks out between the team. Dupli-Kate then steps in and tells Ray that she went through just as much as her and Rex.
I died for this. I went through just as much as you and Rex. More even.
Are you serious? Buddy, you had a clone tucked away. You were never in danger of actually getting put down permanently. Can't say the same about Rex and Ray.
There's only one of me. I can't go hide a backup copy of myself away like you can.
Yeah, that makes sense. What the f is this chick talking about? Aside from these incidents, Dupli-Kate's whole personality most of the time is just kind of rude, annoyed at everyone, argumentative. She almost reminds me of one of those chicks from Mean Girls. If you watch that movie, you know what I'm talking about. But unfortunately for Dupli-Kate, her powers aren't a redeeming factor, which leads me to my next point. Now, for a while, I just kind of thought that maybe Dupli-Kate had a limit on how many copies she could make. I thought maybe she maxed out at like 10 copies, but then I watched that episode with Multipol where he made a shit ton of copies to beat up Rex, and it seemed like he had no limit. Like, look at how many of these motherfuckers there are. That's insane. And when Mark was trying to save Rex, he actually struggled a bit at first because he was going easy, which was BS. That makes no sense. Doesn't matter if 1,000 multipols were thrown at Invincible, they should have zero effect on him at all, but whatever, Invincible writing. And then when he made a bunch of copies to escape prison, which was an absolutely gnarly scene, Multipol is just significantly better. I also thought maybe their powers are slightly different, so I looked it up and it doesn't say anywhere that Dupli-Kate or Multipol have a limit on how many copies they can make. So as far as we know, it could be limitless. They could make tens of thousands of them and just use strength and numbers to wreck everyone. But no, Kate usually just makes 3 to 5 copies and that's it. And so she gets completely wrecked in almost every fight. But let's just go over some specific fight scenes. Alright, first up, I've got to go over the Lizard League fight because it genuinely pissed me off how dumb she was in this fight. When they first roll up on the league, Kate already has a bunch of copies ready to go, but even still, she could have made more. She could have filled that whole elevator up, but instead she only makes like 10. Why she always does this, I don't know.
I don't know.
Then she proceeds to fight the biggest and strongest motherfucker there. The same motherfucker who was eating juicers from the Immortal. Bro ate this to the lips and survived. And Immortal is significantly stronger than Dupli-Kate, like it's not even comparable. But to be fair, for being what looks like 120 pounds, she was putting up 2 plates on bench. But seriously, what does she think she's gonna do to this dude? Especially with just like 4 copies. She keeps making copies of just 4. 3 copies get packed up, and so she just makes 3 more, and then stops. Why don't you make 100, 500, 1,000? Maybe then she'd have a chance. When she piles up on him, she's somehow actually able to do something and somehow hurt him with her regular punches, which is wild. Immortal literally put this man through the floor, and he was fine, but whatever. He takes out those copies until she's left with 1, and instead of immediately making 20 more copies, she sits there and backs away slowly.
Are you serious? You're a disappointment.
He picks her up and then she starts trying to duplicate herself. Should have tried that earlier, buddy. She then breaks free for a second, makes a copy, but both copies get smashed together and that's it. Maybe she should take some tips from Multipal. He probably would have made a cool 100 copies and just dogpiled this dude. Kate made 4 and just waited for them to die before making more. You might think she doesn't make more copies because then she'd have too many extra if they survive, but that's wrong. These extras just morph back into her. She does it all the time. Alright, next is the Flaxen fight. She does okay in this fight, but of course, she only makes a few copies at a time, but she's able to jump the Flaxens one at a time, which gets the job done because the Flaxens aren't very strong. So she would need to do a little more than that against literally any other opponent in the Invincible universe, because they're all strong as f. Alright, next is the second Flaxen fight. We don't see much of Dupli-Kate, like, at all. We see her charge one of the tanks with Rex with just 1 copy. That's about it. But she could have made an army of just herself. She probably could have almost single-handedly taken out the Flaxen army by just making hundreds of herself. Teen Team end up beating the Flaxens because they figured out that the bracelets are what were keeping them from aging, but later on, they come back, and yet again, Dupli-Kate doesn't do jack diddle. But luckily, Omni-Man comes through this time and saves the day. Alright, next we have the Mauler twins fight. The JV Guardians team busts in to save the day. Black Samson gets put down with a nervous system gun. Immortal gets thrown into a pole and gets knocked out. And Kate comes in hot with herself and just 1 copy. Seriously? Did you not learn your lesson when the big ass lizard nearly wiped you off this earth because you decided to use like 3 or 4 copies at a time? Make more. Roll up with like 200 copies. She somehow did damage to the lizard dude, so a couple hundred of her could probably put down one of the Mauler twins. Alright, next we have one of my favorite fight scenes in the Invincible show, the Machine Head fight. Machine Head called in some heavy hitters, and after Mark gets stomped out, the new Guardians of the Globe show up. Dupli-Kate was fighting the electric guy, I forget his name, and she actually does well at first. She only makes like 5 copies, but they all jump the electric dude. But later on, her guy starts zapping Monster Girl, and when she heads over to help, she only has 4 copies, and they all get snatched up and knocked out. And yeah, that's all she does. Not like she was gonna be of much help anyways. Battle Beast was there, and he was just wrecking people this whole fight. Alright, last up here is the Invincible variant fight. Oh wait, she does nothing. But to be fair, none of the other Guardians did anything either. Immortal was the only one trying to hold down the fort. Dupli-Kate has the ability to be pretty cracked, but she never uses her abilities to make more than like 4 copies at a time, and she doesn't have any other powers like increased durability or super strength, so you'd think she'd be out here making armies of herself to be of any use to the team, but nope. She's also an extremely unlikable character, so that's not helping her case at all. It's even more embarrassing when her brother with the same powers is like 7 times more powerful and just a cooler character. The only reason I can think of as to why she doesn't multiply into hundreds is because the animators don't have time for that shit. That's really about it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Also let me know what videos you guys want to see next. But that's all I've got for you guys today, so see you in the next one.